We are joined here with our guest, Brien Foerster. How's it going, Brien?
Good. How about you?
Going good. We have another co-host number 2, Michael, who right as the show started, his computer was set for an auto update. So he'll be along. And I'm joined here also with my other co-host, Jeff Giles.
Yes.
Seems to be a little quiet.
No, I'm here.
You with us, man?
Yes.
So, Brien, we might as well bring this up because we keep cracking jokes about this. We did a show on Tuesday. Are you aware that there's a flat Earth movement going around?
What? Sorry, I didn't understand.
I said, are you aware that there's a flat Earth movement going around, and people actually believe that the Earth is flat?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Well, we ended up doing an episode. It was starting to get to me because I have a lot of people in my newsfeed, and I started seeing it a lot lately. And so we did an episode, and we had a guest that we have on a lot, Tim Swartz, come on, and then we had a physicist come on. You know, we thought we'd talk, some physics and some science, and try to. Because it seems that these flat earthers, I don't think they've picked up any sort of science book before. So yeah, we thought we would do a show. I shouldn't say about flat Earth. I should say about the round Earth. So I thought it was kind of odd that we had to even cover it in the first place. I guess we didn't have to, but anyway, yeah, it just keeps popping up in my mind. It's funny to me. But anyway, I think we got Michael. Michael, are you with us now?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's all right, man. But anyway, enough of the flat Earth stuff. We've put that to bed. We are going to talk about these ancient elongated skulls that you've been researching for a while, Brien. And okay. I know that recently, they might have started doing it a while ago. I was going to look before the show, but I was like, well, I might as well I'm not even going to look. We have Brien on tonight, and maybe the perfect person to ask. So, yeah, I know I'll be learning a little bit here tonight, too. But I know that they did, there was some DNA testing, right, that was done on these skulls?
Yeah, some initial testing was done about a year and a half ago.
And has there been any results?
Well, just very initial results, and what they seemed to indicate was that there's segments of the DNA that didn't match anything in any gene bank regarding 100% human being, as we call human beings.
And then we were talking earlier. Now, is it? I think I read this right. It was the testing. It's government funded, right?
Or is it, no. Actually, what we're
no. Okay.
No, actually, what we're doing now is because the initial results got actually worldwide attention. We had a number of people attacking us, and so, of course, to do a proper investigation, we are working with the Peruvian government and a Peruvian archaeologist in order to have a major DNA study done.
Okay.
Nice. So is the Peru government more open to this than, say, the U.S. government? Are they influenced by the U.S. government?
I don't think so. I think it's they simply want it to be done in a proper scientific manner, because we are dealing with ancient human or ancient DNA, and so that means that it's pre-Columbian, and that means that it has to be certified by the Peruvian government for it to be internationally recognized.
I see. So, wow, I was actually in, I know this isn't Peru, but I was in Cozumel, Mexico, and I saw some pretty interesting things there. With but I would love to go to Peru someday and check this out. I have some friends who've been there and who are completely into all this, and they often post things about these elongated skulls and everything, and so it reminds me of that new Indiana Jones movie. How accurate do you suppose that was with the crystal skulls? No, I'm just saying, because I liked it. A lot of people didn't like that movie, but I liked it.
Actually, well, the great thing about Steven Spielberg is that he always bases each one of those movies on something. There is an aspect of reality to it. So he obviously did some research about crystal skulls, and obviously also did some research about elongated skulls. And I guess he put the two ideas together. But yeah, there is a bit of validity in that movie, just like in all the Indiana Jones films.
Who are these beings? These because they kind of look like they almost have the shape of those grays, which terrify me, by the way. I'm scared.
Well, they're actually different shapes. The most famous ones are the ones that are quite close to where I am geographically, and they do look like they're cone heads.
They do though. Oh, it's awesome, actually.
Yeah, and I've seen some pictures of some really really long heads. Like the one that we have on the picture for the show tonight that's not quite so long. But yeah, I was looking at pictures earlier, and there's definitely some that have those longer heads, and it's I don't know. It's interesting to me.
The most convincing thing about that is the crevice inside the skull. It doesn't look anything like the crevice that humans have in their skulls.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean that just did it for me. I mean, so who are these beings? Were these people worshipped as gods back in the day?
Well, the weird thing is that this actually happened all over the world, on every continent that has people on them, except Antarctica. But that, in general, is called cranial deformation. That's where the royal family had their skulls wrapped as babies in order to achieve that kind of shape, so they would look different. But in the case of the Paracas skulls here, some of them look like they were literally born that way. They're very natural looking, and they have a number of different physical features which are not typical of what we look like.
Okay. Yeah. So, man, I wish they were still around today, because I would love to see. I mean, their intelligence must, just to measure that and see what they have to say. It would be awesome, an awesome experience. So I guess they had children. I'm guessing they still. Do you imagine that they just kept it in the family, or they got with humans and had hybrid children?
I think that is a possibility, because it seems like they were quite a small population, and they were only the royal family that looked like this. The general public didn't look like that at all, but they were the people in charge of the society. They also had very dark red hair, which isn't typical of Native Americans. and they appeared to be quite tall too. So there are a number of characteristics that make them unlikely to have been, just typical native people.
Mm-hmm. Were these the beings that required sacrifice occasionally, like on top of the pyramids?
No, that's actually more the end of the Mayan period and the end of the Aztec period. These, from what we can tell, these people were very peaceful, and the more that I research it, the more it seems that they were actually exterminated by a local or a nearby tribe of people who moved into their territory. Their skulls suddenly disappear about 2,000 years ago, and
oh wow,
all wiped out.
That's a shame. Yeah. Yeah, we seem to fear what we don't understand. Everyone different. It's just a story that continues to repeat itself even today, it appears.
That's true.
So wow. Did these beings have, I want to say, any sort of cool technology with them? Advanced technology?
In the area, you mean?
No.
Where they were found?
No,
okay.
We haven't been able to find anything like that. But they were experts they were master artists. Some of the finest weaving, pottery, and whatever happened in Peru happened among them 2,000 plus years ago. But they didn't. So far, we haven't been able to find any kind of technology.
Okay.
So you know how we can only see 1% of the electrical magnetic spectrum? Do you think they can see more and see who knows what percent they see at?
Well, that's true. The thing is that the shape of their eyes was very different than normal people, and it is, there's actually one skeleton that's up near the city of Cusco, where the head was the size of its torso, or its head was basically the size of its body, and that one had really, really shallow eye sockets, so its eyes protruded out and almost had no nose. So that's more looking like what you might call a gray alien.
Right. Wow. So where do you think these people came from?
Well, that's why we're doing the genetic testing, because they don't seem to originally have been from Peru. They seem to have come from somewhere else, but whether they came from another part of the planet or some other planet is the big question.
All right.
Do you think it'd be some sort of connection to Atlantis or Lemuria?
There is a possibility of that, yeah, because some people have depicted Atlanteans and Lemurians as being physically different from us. So they could have been the last of a great super race of some kind.
I don't know where I heard it, but I heard once that the Native Americans were actually descendants of Atlantis.
Well, I've heard stories like that too. I've also, there are also a number of stories that say that there were incredibly tall, red-haired people who lived in North America, but the native died.
Right.
And the so-called giants were exterminated supposedly by the Native Americans.
Yeah, I heard those the tall people were actually the Lemurians.
Oh, that could be.
Some wild stuff. Eddie, is there any connection? I should say, actually, in the last 24 hours, someone was bringing up Zeta Talk, that Nancy Leader site, and I brought up that channel Ramtha. I think I like Ramtha personally. A lot of people don't like her, I should say, Jay-Z, but I think it's a very interesting character, and yeah, he claimed that the Lemurians were quite tall. Ramtha was supposedly from Lemuria. What they say, 30,000 years ago or something. Yeah. I mean, I would love to, like I said, how soon do you think these DNA results will come out? How long will it be?
Well, it's been a process. We've been working on it for a number of months to get all the paperwork finalized. We already have the laboratory ready to take the samples. We have a carbon-14 lab that's ready to take samples for testing how old these people were. And we have one of the world authorities on ancient hair who wants to analyze the red hair and if it's naturally red or if it's been dyed or something like that.
Okay. Okay. So I guess that's the next step. What happens after that? Where do we take this next?
Well, after we get the results, we're planning on testing 4 different skulls, or maybe 5, and then depending on what the results are from that, then we want to expand it into other areas. Like a lot of these skulls have also been found in Bolivia, so we'd like to be able to do testing of Bolivian skulls too.
Okay.
I've heard that Native Americans, they can't, like the true Native Americans, they can't grow facial hair. Is that true?
In general, most Native people can't grow much of a mustache or a beard. That's true.
All right. Okay. So if an Indian or a Native American has a facial hair, he's most likely got some European in him or something.
Yeah, or from some other part of the world. That's true. And we found ancient ceramics in Peru where people have had full mustaches and beards. So the history of Peru is much more complicated than what most archaeologists think.
So, okay. So, what do you suppose the reaction of the world will be if something interesting comes out about this?
Well, again, it's going to depend upon what the results tell us, but the possibilities are that that people reach Peru by ship, more than 2,000 years ago from somewhere else on the planet, and then over time intermix with other people, or like local people, or again, the wildest idea would be that these people originally weren't from this planet at all.
It's a real shame because even if the results do come out in our favor, I think most people, they won't accept them unless it's actually sanctioned by America. I mean, the United States. As far as they would want our scientists to concur with what your scientists would say, and then they would want it actually admitted on the mainstream media. Because people are so skeptical. They are.
Yeah.
What? Ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean, how are you skeptical when you have to get approval from the mainstream media?
Right. Exactly.
So do you think these beings are friendly or evil? Or maybe both, like, you see in humans?
Well, he just said that they were friendly. Peaceful.
Yeah, from what we see depicted on the pottery, we don't see any scenes of violence or activity of any kind. They seem to have been very gentle people who were taken over by warlike people who you may have heard of. If you've heard of the Nazca lines, I think it was actually the Nazca people that moved in and wiped these people out.
Yeah, I read a book called The 13th Colony, and the Nazca lines were heavily featured in that book. And Native Americans were as well. It was really good, yeah. It was actually really good. And the Native Americans, and they claim in it that our Declaration of Independence was actually inspired from these Native Americans, and that all sorts of cool stuff in that book. But it was also like heavily on the Mormon side, like claiming that Jesus came here to the Americas and whatnot, and that there was actually a group of white people that came long before Columbus that interacted with the Native Americans and were heavily spiritual. Which that part I believe definitely happened. I mean, a lot of people claim that the Vikings came here long before Columbus. That I have no problem believing. There seems to be a lot of proof of that. There's a lot of druidic type symbols, the runes. There's runes on some ancient carvings, and the carbon dating seems to put it thousands of years ago, which is really cool. And
well, that's true, and also the Phoenicians could have come as well. Like probably 3,000 plus years ago, because they were major maritime people, and they could have very well have come to North America and interacted, and they wouldn't have broadcast to the general public when they went back to Europe about where they'd been, because they would have found very valuable things and didn't want competition from other people. So it could have been kept very secretive.
Right. So are these beings going to come back, do you think, in the future? Are they the Anunnaki or any relation?
No, I don't think so. There's a lot of talk, especially these days, about the Anunnaki and about the Nephilim. There's one researcher called L.A. Marzulli, who is a Nephilim expert, and actually he's working with me in regards to the aspects of the DNA testing, because he thinks it's possible that the Nephilim arrived in North America and may have made it as far south as Peru about 3,500 years ago.
Okay.
Huh.
That's 3,500 years ago is about the time that that great flood happened, wasn't it?
Well, actually, I think the real flood happened, which was a worldwide event, happened almost 12,000 years ago, and we have evidence in the geological record that the end of the Ice Age happened super fast, and that the world's oceans rose by 300 feet really quickly. And I think that's what the Great Flood myth is about. There may have been a lesser one 3,500 years ago, but the world flood happened about 12,000 years ago.
Wow. Okay, and that may have been what destroyed Atlantis, right?
That's the theory, because actually the time frame matches the end of Atlantis was supposed to be about 12,000 years ago, so that coincides really well with this, with the scientific based idea that the oceans rose by 300 feet.
Okay. Wow, it would have been scary to be alive during that time.
Especially if you had a beach house, yeah.
Yeah, I suspect we were alive though. I've had before I even learned about Atlantis, there's a lot of distortion going on from somewhere. I had a lot of strange dreams that kind of resembled what I learned shortly after about Atlantis, and I read a lot about Edgar Cayce and what he had to say about Atlantis, and it almost matched up completely. Very strange.
Right.
The dreams. It kind of felt at first like it was a future civilization, because they had a lot of cool technology. I mean,
I've seen a lot of things, Jeff. I wish I could.
What's that, Michael?
You've seen a lot of things. I wish I could.
No, those were just dreams, though. But the dreams happened within a few weeks of each other, and they were very specific, and I remember all the details. And after is when I started looking into Edgar Cayce, and then everything matched up with that. And one of the dreams was, of course, when the big waves came in and killed everyone, and I was with my family in the dream, and we went to go hide inside a cave by the ocean, and that dream, and we were all scared. We knew that that waves were coming. We thought that being inside the cave would protect us. And the dream suddenly ended, and I'm guessing we died. Yeah. Some creepy dreams. But and from what I saw, all my friends back in the day that I used to have were also in that dream. So I suspect that most of us lived there in those times. So I mean, some cool ideas right there. But apparently we were just like them in a sense. Most people weren't that smart back then. The elite, of course, were smart. They knew everything. They kept most of the secrets from the people. It's not like if that dream was real, I mean, then it's not like it is that most people think that all Atlanteans were smart and intelligent and they had all the technology. I mean, the people in my dream were as dumb as doorknobs. You know, they were just really stupid, like almost as dumb as people are today. And really cool technology, though.
How did it all disappear, though? Like, couldn't they hold on to it? At least just we had to start from scratch?
Well, I imagine that the elite, you know, got to safety and preserved it for themselves. And that was just one civilization on the planet. The whole world wasn't Atlantis. And Ramtha claims that the Atlanteans were at war with the Lemurians at the time. You know, just as the world was going crazy. Also claimed some interesting things she claimed was that the dinosaurs back then, they were actually around, and the Atlanteans created a weapon to kill them off, a huge laser, like a laser weapon, and the laser kept going, and it actually pierced the atmosphere. And at the time, the atmosphere was supposedly made of like a sheet of water of some sort, and that's what started the cataclysms, by piercing the atmosphere. At which point, afterwards, after the whole cataclysm happened, that was the first time they saw the sun. And that's pretty much how they began to worship the sun, because, oh my God, for the first time they see this huge ball of light in the earth up there, you know, and so I thought that was all very interesting, whether it's true or not. But yeah, do you have any suggestions as far as if I was going to visit Peru, exactly where we should go?
Yeah, people go to Cusco, which was the Inca capital, and then of course Machu Picchu is there, and a lot of other ancient stone ruins which appear to have been made using lost ancient high technology. So they're older than the Inca civilization, and some of us believe that they're 12,000 plus years old. So they're older than any known civilization on the planet.
What's the sense that you get there? Is there like is there a specific energy, a vibe in the atmosphere?
Yeah, actually, the area around Cusco it's got a very peaceful feeling to it. You feel as soon as you get off the plane. And I'm here on the coast, and I'm very close to I'm in the area where the elongated skull Paracas people lived, and it again has this really ancient feeling of peace and calmness about it.
Well, that's cool, very cool. So when people go on tours there, do they ask the tour guides a lot of questions about aliens?
That's funny.
I think some do, but I don't. Actually, some of the tour guides can tell stories about UFOs because there's a lot of UFO activity in Peru.
Oh, wow.
Huh.
Yeah, you find UFO activity going on at the strangest places, actually. I mean, the place I've always seen them was up in northwestern Jersey in Sussex County. And that's the only place I've really ever seen them. And I only go there like once every few months. But there was actually the first time I saw some UFOs was in 1997, and then I saw them for a couple of years afterwards. But there was a 12-year gap, I think, from 2002 or 2003 up until recently, up until about a year ago. And in the last year, I saw them on 3 different occasions, and each time it's getting stranger and stranger. And so it's been a few months, but I'm a little creeped out what's going to happen next time. It seems like they're trying to make contact. It's real creepy. So I don't know. It is uncomfortable. Yeah.
I live out by Devil's Tower, and some of the locals say they've seen some out there. But personally, I've never seen any UFOs. I would like to. I'd like to visit one of these beings, dude. I'm a nice guy. They can reason with me, man.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't say that if it actually happened. I'm pretty sure.
Why?
Because it gets creepy.
It gets creepy?
It gets very creepy.
I think it'd be incredible.
You wouldn't be the slightest bit scared if a big ass UFO flew directly above?
Heck no, I'd wave him down, dude.
You're just saying that. You're just saying
no.
that. You're just saying that, dude. Trust me.
I want to see one.
Well, just go wherever they hang out, dude. Find a UFO hotspot and go there and spend the night there. Camp out.
You better come visit me.
They better come. I'm not visiting you. It's all on you, buddy. You go out there on your own.
What if you said they're really friendly? Why would you be scared?
Because not all of them are really friendly, Michael.
Oh, not all of them. Okay.
Well, there's many species, supposedly, and these ones in Peru with the elongated heads, they may be friendly. I mean, they may have not even had UFOs, but the ones I'm talking about, they could be kind of scary.
I think it's just military aircraft, to be honest.
Yeah, some of it is, but I can guarantee you they aren't all. Most of them aren't. Unless our government has some sort of technology that can read your mind and is telepathic and will react
think they do?
to your every thought. No, not necessarily. I don't know. But if they did, why would they be doing these things like contacting individuals and messing with us?
Well, I don't know if they would necessarily do that.
Well, that's what's going on. So Brian, what do you think? I mean, do you hear stories about this?
What's that?
Do you hear stories about this, about alien contact in today's world? I mean, this going on?
Oh, yeah, a lot. There's a lot that has been going on in Peru.
Okay. Have you ever personally seen a UFO?
On 2 occasions.
Okay. What did the UFO look like?
The first case I was in Hawaii, and it was like a long tube about the size of a aircraft, like a 767 kind of size, and it was almost motionless.
Yeah.
About a year and a half ago, we saw 12 of them, 12 balls of light at night right here on the coast.
Oh, wow.
How about that? Those the cylinder, you said it was motionless, it just sat there in the sky?
Well, it was hard to tell because we were in a car, but if it was moving, it wasn't moving fast enough for it to be an airplane, because it would have fallen out of the sky.
Okay, was it more of a cigar shaped or was it an actual cylinder?
It was more of a cigar shape, or it's like if you take an airplane and you take the wing, like the wings and the tail off, so it was rounded at both ends, but
okay.
It was very shiny, aluminum looking.
Okay, I was told the cigar shaped UFOs are actually Pleiadians. And yeah. And
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, and the one time I actually had a good experience with them. I mean, with the cigar-shaped one, and it was very unusual, and I definitely think they are positive. I mean, good beings. So there you go, Michael. They're good. But if you ever see one... What's that, dude?
Oh, nothing. Keep going.
No. But if you see a red UFO, those are the ones you got to be look out for, because those are the grays.
The red one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. I've heard the grays are just hired by the powers that be to like scare us.
You can say it, Michael. You're on the show. They are hired by the reptilians. Come on, dude. Don't be shy. Well, I heard that they are just slaves. They're a slave race of the reptilians, sure. And I also heard that most of them are actually clones. The taller grays are clones, and the shorter ones are actually real. And
I learn more about aliens every time we do these types of shows. Yeah, I know. Somehow we always get on that subject.
Come on, dude. It's crazy. Dude, in 1997, I had that dream. It terrified me. And in that dream, I was in the kitchen. It was daytime. And you know what was unusual? You know how, like, in movies and TV shows, when they do a segment, like a flashback, or when you're in a dream, all they do is they blur out the sides and the corners of the video and make it look white, like it's blurred out. You know what I'm talking about? Like a dream segment. Well, that happened in this dream, and it was the only time in my life that I've ever had a dream where it was like it looked like it was artificially made to look like a dream. And also in that dream, it was the only time where I was frozen and I couldn't move, and I was literally stuck. And it was daytime in the kitchen, and the doorbell rang, and the shades, I could see through the shades, the outline, and there were two beings on the other side, and they both had the shape of grays, and there was like a tall one and a small one, and the tall one was looking down at the small one, and they were looking at each other. And right then I thought, those are grays. What's going on? I couldn't move. My dad comes downstairs hypnotized with his eyes closed, unlocks the door for them, walks back upstairs, and they start, the door opens, and they start hovering towards me, like real slowly. And I was just like almost in a trance, looking into the eyes of the taller one, and it was the most terrifying thing of my life, because I couldn't move, and usually in a dream I'll run or I'll beat the shit out of the monsters, you know. But in this dream, the one time I couldn't move, I was stuck there. And when they got about 5 feet away, I woke up, and it was daytime, and the dog was still freaking out, and he was hiding under and the front door was unlocked, which my parents never left the door unlocked before they went to work. So yeah, and that was actually about a month after I saw all those UFOs in 1997. And that happened during one night. It was actually while that Hale-Bopp comet was out there. I saw the craziest stuff, dude, that night. Craziest stuff.
That's incredible, dude, though. Yeah.
An airplane flew directly overhead and like shined a spotlight on our house. It was insane.
Wow.
Yeah. That night was creepy, man. No joke. And my sister witnessed it with me.
You have some stories, Jeff. Now, anyway, hey, we have a caller. We'll see what the caller has to ask for a question. The caller, are you with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Can we get your name?
Yeah, I'm Clarence Mitchell. I'm also a Blog Talk radio host.
Nice.
Oh, right
on. I'm also one of the admin for the Ancient Alien people on Facebook. If you ever see the group or not.
Okay.
You know, a lot of members, over 26,000 now members.
Oh wow.
So,
awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I just wanted to say, Mr. Foerster, I've been watching you for a very, very long time, and I'm very impressed with your work, no doubt.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I wanted to ask you, and I posted a lot of videos with you in them, and I've read a couple of your books, and stuff. I want your insight on Pumapunku. That's one of my favorite places of all that I deal with. and I know you've been there and you've seen these stones and stuff, and I just really would like to get your brain on that, you know, and what you really think about it.
Sure. Do you have any specific questions?
Well, you know, you hear the debunkers about it being different type of stone, you know, from granite to red clay to whatever. I mean, what is the real deal with Pumapunku? I mean, are they as big and as precise as people say? And, you know, I always had this thing, too. It kind of upsets me that people use Tiwanaku as a, what do you want to say, a timeline for this. And I honestly believe Pumapunku is much, much older than Tiwanaku, and they really shouldn't use both of them, you know, side by side.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point. And from what I've been able to find out, there are two main kinds of stone there. There's red sandstone, and then this the gray stone, which is called andesite. The red sandstone comes from about 5 miles away at the top of a mountain, and the gray andesite is from about 45 miles away. There is a red sandstone block that is about 130 tons, but it's really the gray andesite material which is so nicely cut that it would have had to have been done by machine. There's no way that it could have been done by hand. But I think actually Tiwanaku and Pumapunku were the same place. I think Pumapunku was the whole thing, but a lot of it right now is covered in mud. And then when the Tiwanaku civilization showed up, they moved a lot of the stone around and rebuilt structures out of it. But it is the weirdest place on the planet. I've been there 20 times, and every time I still go away shaking my head because there's nowhere else on this planet that looks like it. It's completely unique, and it's isolated miles from Lake Titicaca. 10,000 years ago, the lake would have been the shoreline would have been right at Pumapunku. So I think it's definitely at least 12,000 years old and was made using actually technology more advanced than what we have.
Huh. Damn.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there for people because a lot of people, you know, they use Tiwanaku as a timeline and stuff, and every time you see a thing about Pumapunku, they always put Tiwanaku in there, and they use evidence from Tiwanaku for Pumapunku, and I say it's all wrong because even the Inca and them, you know, the ones that actually built Tiwanaku said that place was there before they got there, and the gods built the place. I mean, that's what they honestly believe, and it's just amazing how people get that misconstrued, you know.
Yeah, well, actually, the big point is that archaeologists refuse to believe that there was anybody there prior to 2,000 years ago, and the Tiwanaku culture were the ones who did some building there, but all they did is they took the stone that was already there and rearranged it. So correct. You're absolutely right, and that's the problem with a lot of archaeology is the fact that we see obvious evidence of much greater antiquity and very sophisticated technology at work, but they simply say, no, that's impossible, it's there first. And it's like, aren't. They just showed up.
Yeah, no kidding, right? That's fantastic. I am so glad you put light on that, though. Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
I would like to also know, you know, you deal a lot with the elongated skulls and such. Do you believe maybe that, you know, these may be part of the Pumapunku people also?
That's an excellent point, and yes, very much so, because a lot of skulls have been found right next to Pumapunku. We found actually an ancient cemetery on private property, and elongated skulls have been dug out of that area. You could almost throw a rock at Pumapunku from that spot. So I definitely think that the ancient people who lived there were very physically different than even the Tiwanaku people. They were, very ancient, godlike build.
Exactly right. Very good. Cool. I'm glad you agreed, and it just I'm kind of overwhelmed to see you on here. I just happened to catch a posting that somebody posted on our site, and I had to sign in and listen in, and I think it's great that you're doing what you're doing, and by all means, I hope you keep it up and keep us posted on what you're doing.
Oh, definitely. And actually, I'm going. It's filmed in New York City for 2 more episodes of Ancient Aliens for this year. So one of them is actually where we did 3-dimensional construction of the elongated face. So that'll be featured on Ancient Aliens in about a month, I think.
Great.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that our site there, the Ancient Alien group that's on Facebook, we're not part of the Ancient Alien show itself, but that is what we call the group, just not to confuse anybody on that. But we have a lot of participation, and we use Ancient Alien movies and stuff, for a lot of our postings and comments and stuff like that. But you'd be amazed at the people. I mean, they are so great. They're always looking for new answers and stuff. And, I just did a bit. Maybe you could help me out on this, too. Do you know anything about the old Europe civilization or anything? I just had a bunch of postings and stuff about that, and I did a show about it here just recently, where they claim to be possibly the oldest civilization ever found on Earth.
Well, there are some really interesting places, definitely if you're talking about Europe, there's a site called Göbekli Tepe that was found in Turkey that was a megalithic site buried on purpose 12,000 years ago. So we don't know how old it actually is. There are a lot of fascinating places in Turkey itself. And I was just in Baalbek in Lebanon, where there are the largest shaped stones in the world. Some of them are 1,200 tons. And that was not done, by primitive people.
Wow, that is awesome. I need to ask you something, and it's been a curiosity of mine for many years. I read these stories and stuff where they put these timelines of 12,000 years, 5,000 years, or such as that. How do they actually come up with these timelines? I mean, I know carbon dating is one way of doing things, but how accurate really is all this?
Well, actually, carbon dating is coming under scrutiny now.
Yeah.
So, it's been used since the 1940s, but that really still is the main technique that's being used. There's a new technology called cosmogenic testing that measures the amount of cosmic radiation that has struck the surface of stone, and that's what we actually had a study where samples of Pumapunku stone were sent to a laboratory to have cosmogenic testing done, and the laboratory was paid, and then once they had the results, they contacted us and said, I'm sorry, we can't tell you what the results are because they may conflict with the conventional timeline of Tiwanaku.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome.
So we're now looking for another lab to do it, and of course, they won't be told where the samples come from. But also, as soon as we get the money back from that laboratory, we're going to spread the word through the internet that they were basically being very dishonest with us. They wouldn't give us the results that we paid for because they may conflict with conventional archaeology timeline.
Do you think that they're doing this as a conspiracy thing, though? I mean, there's been a lot of conspiracy theories going on lately. I mean, a lot of it. And it really, kind of upsets me that it happens this way. But do you think they do it on purpose or not?
I think in a lot of cases, yeah, in a lot of cases they do. We know of a number of sites in Egypt that are probably at least 12,000 years old, so 7,000 years older than the pharaohs. But if you move too forward in that direction, then the Egyptologists get offended and they threaten to pull their funding from Egypt.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask that. There seems to be a monopoly on information when it comes to everything. The FDA, education, religion, the media. So why wouldn't it be the same? It is the same. It's the same with science, and not just when it comes to archaeology, medicine as well. And that's how they do it. They like to threaten to pull funding, and if one of the scientists doesn't do what they're told, they get ostracized by their entire community and cut off.
Yep.
Yeah, I can
That's
see that.
true.
You
Yeah.
know, so how
it's almost always about money and control.
Yeah.
But since we have the internet, we have a lot of ways of getting around that.
Okay. All right, good. So I mean, you're kind of what about all the people who rely on official statements, peer-reviewed journals? Are they just hopeless? There's just no hope for them? They're never going to be able to, they're going to be too skeptical, and they're just going to basically be the last people to wake up?
Well, they are, and I don't think there's all that much of a point of bothering with peer reviewing, because this stuff belongs to this knowledge, like how old Puma Punku is, belongs to the general public, not to a little group of academics. So that's that's the audience that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the global population as the audience, not some university people who I have to get approval from.
Right. Wow. So because I've heard so much over the years about some government or another admits that UFOs are real, and but people just are so skeptical. They're not going to pay any attention to it until it's the actual American government that admits it.
Yeah, exactly.
That is disturbing.
And the American government will probably be the last one to ever deal with it anyway. I mean, you have a number of countries, like in Peru, it's you ask the general public, do you believe in UFOs? Most of them will say yes. And a lot of people here have had sightings. It's a big deal. But some Western some so-called Western countries that are so control freaky about this stuff, but it can't last because the truth does come out.
Mm-hmm. We had a caller on the show a couple weeks ago by the name of Fristican, who lives in Peru, and he said it's beautiful down there. So I mean,
very much so.
Yeah, I can't wait to go down there someday. But wow. So man.
Oh, I was thinking. Of course, when I first started getting into the elongated skulls in Peru, I remember it was Lloyd Pye. I'm curious. Has anyone taken over his work? Continued? Is there like some? Is there a special group or anything that took his work over and is now continuing on what he left behind?
Yeah, there's a foundation that's been developed that takes care of the Star Child, and they're doing a fundraiser right now for advanced DNA testing.
Okay, all right. Because I was wondering, because that was the first thing that I don't remember what the documentary. That was the first thing that when I got into the elongated skulls, it was Lloyd Pye. I can't remember the name of that documentary though, but anyway, yeah, I was just curious what was going on with that. Caller, did you have another question before we let you go?
Oh, yeah, I was just curious. I mean, I know he's been around Peru and the area a lot, you know, and I kind of want to get his insight a little bit about, you know, the Inca stones and different things like that. I mean, you know, has he studied them much, or I mean, what's his perception on that stuff?
Oh, the Inca stones?
Yeah.
From what I've heard from actually my mentor here, who is an expert on ancient pottery, ancient stonework, etc., he doesn't think that they're authentic.
Okay. Well, I've been following Claus Donna, or I'm not sure. Okay, I didn't know if you knew who that was or not. And
sure.
He made a claim that some of those were actually authentic stones, while he believed that a lot of them were actually paid to be made, so to speak. And which kind of, you know, it's hard to tell which ones are authentic and which ones aren't. You know, I guess is basically what he was saying. And I just kind of wondered, you know, what you thought about them. And one other thing yeah, go ahead.
Well, actually, we know people here who still make them. So there's one lady who said she and her family made at least 5,000 of them.
Wow.
So honestly, it's a very controversial subject, but I honestly don't find the Inca stones as interesting as many of the other things in both Peru and Bolivia that are, I think, far more mysterious.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bolivia is part of the area I was talking about with that, you know, that Claus Donna, and then we're actually talking about with the Old Europe, you know, what they call the Old Europe. And it predates the Mesopotamian writings and stuff, and the Sumerian writings. And I was really shocked to find all that out. And apparently, from what I can gather, they found a place down in Central America that had all of these pyramid kind of things and ancient Egypt type artifacts. And it got me to wondering if maybe like the Giza plateau and stuff that we know today with the giant pyramids weren't actually the youngest ones, as not necessarily the oldest. What I'm saying is that I'm thinking maybe that these symbols, like the all-seeing eye and things of this nature and whatever, have been around probably since the time of Pumapunku or places like that, you know, that they've been around long before the Egypt pyramids that we know of today, you know, that maybe that was kind of the last stop for the people that built these things.
Well, what you're referring to is the Father Crespi collection of artifacts in Ecuador, and some of them, some of them clearly look like they're Sumerian, but the problem is that because it was local native people who found these artifacts and brought them to Father Crespi, he told them that he would buy any that they found, they striking them. So some of them could be real, and then many of them not real.
Wow. That's a real shame. Just one more quick question. What do you think about Nazca?
About NASA?
Yeah. With the lines
or
and the
Nazca.
Oh, Nazca, the Nazca line.
Okay.
Yeah, the Nazca lines
well, Yeah, I just finished writing a book about Nazca. They're very complicated, and there are many that people realize. Most people recognize the spider and the hummingbird and those ones, but they go all the way from literally about 10 miles from where I am right now on the coast of Peru in a southeasterly direction all the way down through Nazca. So rather than there being like 15 or 20 of them, there's supposed to be more than 1,000 of them.
Wow.
And they're on tops of mountains, they're on the valley floor, they're on the sides of hills. There are lots and lots and lots of figures and runways and lines and spirals and lots of different things.
So the Nazca lines themselves then aren't the only ones there then, is what you're saying. They're all over Peru?
No, they're all in the same area. It's just when you go from Nazca, Nazca's where they end, but if you travel in a northwesterly direction, they go all the Pacific. So they cover, I would say they're like a band of 10 miles in width and 200 miles long.
Oh my goodness. And what do you figure on a date on that? Or do you think some of them are newer things, or do you think they're as old as they claim to be?
No, I think the most modern ones date from about 600 AD, and then they go backwards at least 1,000 years.
And they've also found elongated skulls in that area too, have they not? Or am I wrong on that?
A lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe they're the same tribal people then, or?
Yeah, I do. I think they were all the Paracas people. The Paracas with the Paracas with the elongated skulls are the ones that started making the lines and figures, and then the Nazca were the last people to do them. Like even the famous one called the astronaut, where he has his hand up in the air. Even archaeologists now claim that by the Paracas people long before the Nazca existed.
Really?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of interesting to find out, for sure.
Well, if you look on Amazon, the Nazca book is on there both in e-book and also paperback. And you can read the first 20 pages for free.
Oh, cool. I'll do that. I try to keep up with a lot of your stuff because, I've watched a lot of shows and stuff with you on them and, a lot of videos. I wasn't too happy when Mr. White did his debunking thing and they had you, on there and tried to debunk some of the stuff that was going on. I wasn't too happy with that, just to let you know that. But, yeah.
Well, he also made a lot of factual mistakes too. Like,
Yeah, that was one of my points about him. Here he is debunking, the stuff about Pumapunku and stuff, and yet he was one of these guys that used Tiwanaku as one of his selling points. And and I'm like, I had to laugh because I'm thinking, as a debunker, you're not really doing your homework either, Yeah,
he actually misidentified the types of stone, and so yes. I wouldn't, he didn't do a very good job of research in order to try to be able to debunk at least the Pumapunku part of it.
Exactly right. Well, Brien, I tell you, it's been great talking with you. I'm going to let you guys go again, and, I'm going to follow the show, let you guys know. And, I'd love to talk to anybody, anytime about this subject or anything else, So, God bless you. And, hey,
all right.
Keep it coming
absolutely.
to us, would you please?
Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, and I'm afraid, guys, I have to go now too.
Yes, I was just gonna say it is time to wrap up. Brian, thanks for coming on. I actually
Brian, thanks.
I learned a few new things tonight, so appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Okay,
thanks
thank you.
a lot. Appreciate it. All right, have a good one.